I think of Brampton's Sikh community that continues to step up to help neighbors through Seva. It was a reminder that racism still exists in Canada, with his candidates who aren't fully vaccinated campaigning inside seniors' homes. And we're not going to let Mr. O'Toole keep misleading Canadians. I stand with you. How are you doing tonight, my friends? How you doing, Brampton? What was that? I can't hear you. How you doing, Brampton? Let's give it up one more time for our outstanding team, Maninder, Shafkat, Ruby, Sonia, and Kamal. And, of course, to all you Liberals here this evening, my friends, it's so good to see you. You know, with just 1 week left in this campaign, I know this Liberal team is giving our all. Here in Brampton, you've knocked on thousands and thousands of doors and made thousands more calls. Well, keep it up. Our country is at a crossroads, and we're facing two very different paths. Erin O'Toole is pointing backwards down that old Conservative Party roadmap, trickle-down economics. That if you really want to grow the economy, you have to strengthen the middle class and people working hard to join it. Because that's what truly lifts people up. Back in 2015, I made a promise to middle-class families across the country that we would have your back. And you know what? That's exactly what we did. In our first years, we lifted 1 million people out of poverty while creating 1 million jobs. The last 18 months have been incredibly challenging. They've been utterly exhausting. And for too many, they've been marked by grief and loss. I understand why so many Canadians are tired. It's been hard. Hard on our kids. Hard on our aging parents, hard on caregivers, frontline workers, and teachers, hard on everyone. Canadians have seen, and in many cases lived, the vulnerabilities in our social safety net that have been exposed by this pandemic. We saw how quickly women's participation in the workforce plummeted, how racialized and low-income neighborhoods were hit disproportionately by the virus. When the pandemic fell on all of us around the world, there were no off-the-shelf solutions. So those of us in government rolled up our sleeves and worked day and night. We built the CERB and rolled it out across Canada to support families. We created the wage subsidy to have workers' backs and to support small businesses. And here in Brampton, the wage subsidy helped volunteer MBC keep staff on the payroll so that they could continue connecting organizations with volunteers in this crucial time. At a time when so many people needed a helping hand, Volunteer MBC was there to make sure local food banks and nonprofit organizations helping seniors and families had the help they needed. We built these emergency supports to be there for Canadians so that businesses and organizations could keep their doors open, so that people could put food on the table and pay their rent and mortgage, but more than that, so people could stay home and stay healthy. And you know what that did? It set us up to come roaring back. That's why today we've recovered 95% of the jobs lost during COVID compared to 76% in the US. We invested in the healthcare system in every province and territory to absorb the surge and beat the curve. And we made sure that every single Canadian could get vaccinated. And now, we're leading the world. So if you haven't already, get your shots. And if you know someone who hasn't, talk to them. That's how we'll get through this, together. Of course, here in Brampton, I don't have to tell you what it means to be there for each other. I think of Brampton's Sikh community that continues to step up to help neighbors through seva, making meals and raising funds. Just take the example of Kamal Kara, who returned to work as a nurse at the height of the pandemic. Kamal, you have inspired the community, and your dedication shows that we are all stronger when we support each other. I know many of you have been worried about the safety of your families with the lived reality of racism. We're all remembering and grieving Prabjot Singh Khatri, who was recently killed in Truro, Nova Scotia. He came here to look for new opportunities and to build a life for himself. And that unacceptable act of hatred was a reminder that racism still exists in Canada, which is why we must always stand up against hatred and intolerance, because we are stronger together and always will be. When we look out for those around us, we find the light in each other. We find our path forward. My friends, there are better times just around the bend. We're on the brink of a new day dawning in Canada. But before the sun comes out, before this storm clears, there are things we have to get right. There can be no moving forward for everyone. There can be no full economic recovery for anyone unless we finish the fight against COVID-19 for good. Mr. O'Toole won't make sure that the traveler sitting beside you and your kids on a train or plane is vaccinated. He won't even make sure his own candidates are vaccinated. In fact, we just learned that Mr. O'Toole is just fine with his candidates who aren't fully vaccinated campaigning inside seniors' homes. Does that make any sense for our families, for kids, for our economy? No, it absolutely doesn't. But you know who it does make sense for? Well, it makes sense for the far-right anti-vax wing of his party, that's who. The mobs of anti-vaxxers, of anti-maskers who are harassing doctors and nurses, waiters, and business owners. Do you know what he just said to them? He said that there's room for them in his big tent party. That's who he's chosen. That's the path he wants to take for this country. And it just isn't right. This is the moment for real leadership, and Mr. O'Toole doesn't lead, he misleads. He promised the gun lobby he would repeal our ban on assault weapons, and then he tried to hide it from Canadians. You can't say you'd make our communities safer while secretly planning to work with the gun lobby on which banned assault weapons you would legalize. Right now, the gun lobby is campaigning against Liberals. Well, I have news for them. This Liberal team is never going to back down on gun control, especially not this great Liberal team here in Brampton. They've never backed down. They never will. And we're not going to let Mr. O'Toole keep misleading Canadians. You can't say you have a plan for jobs when you don't have a plan to fight climate change, when you take us backwards to Stephen Harper's old targets, when you refuse to even call out the climate change deniers within your own party. It's 2021. If you don't have a plan for the economy, you don't have a plan for the economy if you don't have a plan for the environment. And let's be clear, on climate change, it's not just the Conservative leader that has a problem. Has made the choice very, very clear. We choose building good green jobs and careers for years to come, not climate denial that leaves Canada's workers behind. We choose helping young people save a down payment to own their own homes, not giving wealthy landlords tax cuts to get even richer. We choose strengthening public health care. He chooses experimenting with privatizing health care. We choose banning assault weapons. He chooses the gun lobby. We choose the rights of Canadians who got vaccinated. He chooses anti-vaxxers. That's the choice. The choice is between a Conservative Party that would take Canada backwards or a government that always has your back. I know where I stand. I stand with you. This is the moment for progressive leadership. And we are the best progressive choice and the only progressive party that can stop the Conservatives from taking us backward. My friends, we're the party with the experience, the team, and the plan to continue delivering real results for Canadians. The party with a real commitment to ending this pandemic, to keeping assault weapons out of our communities, with the proven record on signing childcare deals, with the strongest plan on climate. In other words, the party with real ambition and a real plan, not a dream and a wish list. So if you want $10 a day childcare, go out and vote Liberal. If you want moms to be able to return to work and an economy that comes roaring back, go out and vote Liberal. If you want a future where everyone can find a family doctor and no one has to be on a wait list for mental health counselors, if you want an affordable home, if you want assault weapons to stay illegal, if you want Canada to lead the world on good green jobs, go out and vote Liberal. And above all, if you want to end this pandemic for good, go out and vote Liberal. Movement, make some calls, go knock doors, talk to your neighbor, talk to your family. Keep believing in what we can achieve together because we're ready for the hard work. We're ready for the hope. My friends, let's choose to finish the fight against COVID. Let's build a better tomorrow that leaves no one behind. And let's keep moving forward for everyone. Merci, mes amis. Thank you, Brampton.
Why they wanted to keep Trudeau there for 2 more years. You know, Mr. O'Toole and Mr. Singh and the leader of the Bloc Québécois, they seem to be happy. They wanted to carry on with him. And I think that we have an election because it is traditional. I've been in politics since most of you were not born. In 63, I was elected. Politics is very important. Take vaccination, for example. You know, they criticize the Prime Minister and the government for that. We have done the best of most of the country in the world. We have more than 80% of the people. For me, I've been vaccinated 86 years ago. You know, I had many vaccines. When I was traveling sometimes in Africa, I needed to have new vaccines. And I'm all right, it's not dangerous. But it is the protection of your neighbors when you do your duty to be vaccinated, because you don't want to be a problem for the people who are working for you. You're all workers. You know that it is dangerous if they come and they are not prepared. So we have to congratulate the government because they have done the right thing, and they have to keep pushing because we don't want to be obliged to go back into the problems we had a year and a half ago when nobody was vaccinated. The Liberals in power have proven that they could come back, and will come back, and will have to do what the other nation will have to do. So for me, I'm confident that we have a great future. There's millions and millions of people around the world who will give the last penny they have to become a Canadian citizen. Ask your friend to vote, to go to vote for the Liberal Party, for the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, that I know is associated a long time because I was in the House with his father. You know, I want you to make sure that we have a reasonable government